Good afternoon. Welcome everyone to the Education Administration Committee. We'll go ahead and get started. We got a pretty much of a full plate today. Welcome everyone. Let's start out by with the clerk would call the roll.
Representatives Baum, Boso, Sipicki, Butler, Fritz, Gant, Gillespie, Haston, Hurt, Lafferty, Love, McKenzie, Parkinson, Reagan, Ritchie, Stevens, Warner, Vice Chairman Slater, Chairman White. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much, members. As we get started, before we do get started, let's bow our heads. I always like for us to begin our committee, this being the Education Committee. We have a lot of responsibility that we make decisions that are based upon our children and our young people in our state. So please bow your head. Most Holy God, our Creator, we thank you so much for the opportunity that we have to work on issues that are so important to our entire state in education, especially our young people. I pray that you will protect them in each and every school, give each and every teacher the strength and the patience and the understanding how to work with the young people, watch over them because they do a job that cannot be replaced. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to be together. In Christ, and we pray. Amen. Members, let me kind of go over the schedule. We've got some confirmations today, but first we do have a couple of bills. I'm going to refer to our majority leader, Mr. Representative William Lambert, here to carry the first bill, and then we'll go to our 6 confirmations, come back to a couple more bills, and then we also have a great report from THEC today. We invited them to be here, so we want you to hang around after that and learn what's going on over at Tennessee Higher Education Committee. Before I begin, did I miss anybody on an announcement or anything that needs to be made? Yes, sir, Representative Love.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Not an announcement, but a question. Is the air on?
Sir?
No, seriously, is the air turned on in here?
We can certainly check. Whoever's in charge of the air, could you get with Representative Love? Are you hot or cold?
Well, I mean, I know we have visitors here, and I'm concerned for them also. I don't want them to be frozen out of here, as well as myself, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Thank you.
If we could get a clerk or someone to check on that, we appreciate it. Okay, members, Representative Lambert, you are up and recognized on House Bill 1644, sir. You got a motion in a second. I also see you have an amendment.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Does the amendment rewrite the bill?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
The amendment number is 11585. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay, this does rewrite your bill. Members, any objection to adding the amendment so we can have proper discussion on the bill? Seeing none, all those in favor of adding 11585 to House Bill 1644 indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. You're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I know there's some testimony on this bill. If you'd like to take the testimony first, and then I can take any questions on the bill. But the bill is very straightforward. It is a bill that we passed in the special session. My hope is that our Senate counterparts will join us in passing this bill as well. When a fire alarm goes off in a school and it's unannounced, it obviously can cause a lot of stress. It can cause a lot of concern as to what's going on. And really, we don't know what's going on when a fire alarm goes off every time. You would think, well, okay, it's got to be a fire. But no, it could be a natural disaster. It could be a shooter, some evil person that's come into a school. It could be any number of things. And this requires every public and private school to have a protocol when an unannounced fire alarm goes off. And you'll hear from testimony today that I am convinced that this bill would definitely save lives. It seems like a small change, but it's a big deal. And Mr. Chairman, again, I stand ready for questions, but you have one person that's going to read a statement today, and I think that will probably explain this better than I ever could.
Thank you. Members, let's go to Ms. McLean. Are you in the audience? If you'll come up to one of the seats up front, once you're seated, make sure your mic is on and state your name for the AV record. And we are now out of session. You're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman White, Vice Chair Slater, Representative Lambert, and committee. My name is Abby McLean, and I am a Covenant School parent. I will be reading the words of Erin Kinney, mother of William Kinney, one of the 9-year-old victims who was murdered on March 27th, 2023. I'm authorized to say the following on behalf of Aaron Kinney. We all know what to do when the fire alarm goes off. If it happened right now, we would all quickly exit the building in an orderly fashion and let responders assess the situation. Our school-age children have been trained in what to do when the fire alarm goes off. But in this horrific age of mass violence and school shootings, fire alarms are getting children killed. They can be exploited intentionally by a shooter who pulls a fire alarm like at Parkland, or like at Covenant, the thick haze of smoke released by a rapidly fired rifle automatically triggers the fire alarm. And as loud as you might think indoor rifle fire would be, most of the time, people in classrooms around a corner or on another floor cannot hear it and have no idea that there is a threat to their lives other than fire. They only hear the overwhelming shrillness of the fire alarm, and children and teachers will evacuate as they are trained. This plays right into the hands of assailants who are looking for unsecured people to shoot and to murder. This happened to my child. My child was the line leader that day. He was fulfilling his duty to lead his class to safety from a possible fire, and within seconds of the building being breached, his class encountered the shooter, and he and his 2 classmates were lying dead or dying. Had the students or teachers known there was a shooter in the building, of course they would not have attempted to evacuate. They would have locked down, and they would have been safe. But in the first seconds or minutes of an attack, it is impossible for a teacher to make that assessment. Had there been a law in place to educate schools of this type threat and require a policy mitigating it, lives would have been saved that day. The teachers and administrators would have known to act differently, but it is too late for the 6 Covenant victims and all the traumatized survivors. Given that no child has died in a school fire in decades, but yet our children continue to be slaughtered by gunmen in school, it is time for a change in approach. Previously effective policies must be adjusted. Numerous could be saved by simply pausing, briefly locking down anytime there is an unscheduled fire alarm to simply assess the situation. Policies should give school authorities a few seconds or moments to determine either in real time or with surveillance equipment whether there is a fire or an active shooter threat before advising teachers to proceed with a continued lockdown or evacuation. Each Tennessee school should review their protocols and make the best plan for what their school would do in the event the fire alarm goes off and they don't know why. Many other states have already implemented these changes. My son diligently did his duty as the line leader of his class that day, attempting to lead them all to safety, and I am so proud of him. But he gave his life for it. And none of our lives will ever be the same. This should never happen to another child again. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McLean.
Absolutely.
Members, y'all have any comments or questions you would like to offer before we go back into session? Thank you so much. Yes, sir. Representative Parkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to be clear on where you are on this legislation and what do you see needs to be done?
We are in favor of the
Mhm,
legislation. I think that taking just a few moments, my daughter was in the 3rd grade classroom also, right next to where they were killed. And just being able to pause for 30 seconds to take roll, to make sure that someone can go to a panel or to the place where the smoke or the fire alarm is going off and
Mhm.
simply saying, hey guys, this is real.
Mhm.
This is a fire alarm. We need to evacuate the building, or this is not. This
Mhm.
is an active shooter. This is someone who is trying to murder people in this building, and we need to lock down safely.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you, sir.
absolutely.
Representative Warner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Did I understand you right? Was the fire alarm pulled that day?
No, it was not. It was caused by the smoke from her after she had initially entered the building, and when she killed the first victim, the smoke from the gun.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Members, anyone else? Thank you so much for coming
Absolutely.
and sharing that with us. Very much appreciated. We're back in session. Leader Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Representative, to your question there, there are unfortunately other school shootings that have happened where the shooters came in and one of the first things they did was pull the fire alarm. She mentioned Parkland. This is something that these evil people have started figuring out, that if they can trigger a fire alarm, then the hallways are flooded with children. And remember, the people that we're trying to combat here, that's their goal. So, I mean, I've filed hundreds of bills, and I'll tell you, Miss Kenney is one of the strongest people I've ever spoken to. Her words that were read today, I don't know how she gets out of bed every day, but she does. And she and I have spoken over and over and over about lots of different ideas that she wants to see passed. I mean, I know all y'all. You've heard me brag about the fact that my grandfather was named William, my daddy's named William, I'm named William, my son's named William. Well, so was Miss Kenney's baby boy. It's a big deal, okay? There's lots of bills that can make a difference. This is the least of which that we can do, and we're never going to know the kids that we save. But I tried to get this done in special session, and there were other folks that outside of our chamber that thought it was a good idea to wait. Well, we've waited. Miss Kenney's waited. These folks have waited. I don't want to wait any longer. I want to pass this bill, and I want to make sure statewide that when a fire alarm goes off, the hallways are not flooded with children. William was doing what he was asked to do that day. And the last thought I bet that he had was, the last feeling was pride, that he was leading his classmates to safety. That's what he was taught to do. I'm proud of him. I know Miss Kenney is. And all she asked is we just vote yes on this.
Chairman Sapiki?
Thank you. In regards to the bill, I'm scanning this amendment and I'm 100% in support of this. However, I can't find anything in here that demands compliance from the state on this. There's no reporting mechanism back to the state of a box that's been checked or something like that to make sure that our districts, our charter schools across the state of Tennessee, private schools, all have this policy in place. Is it in the bill? I'm missing that?
You recognize?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and great question. So this would be as part of their regular audits and also with the Homeland Security officer that is in each county that we funded last year. That would be the compliance. Now, there's no punishment mechanism as part of this. There's no loss of funding or anything else. If we start seeing that districts are not doing this, many actually are. Sumner County has these protocols. This bill came from both conversations with Ms. Kenney and, quite frankly, with Representative Slater and I, who met with our local LEAs and Sheriff's Department to see what they do when there is an unannounced fire alarm, and they already have these protocols. So if we start seeing that districts are not doing this, then we can definitely put something in on a, that would have some, I hate to say punishment, but would have some negative consequences if districts aren't doing this. But again, I can't imagine if we say in the law, you have to do this, that a district somewhere is going to refuse to do so. If they do, we can address that.
Follow up.
Just for clarification for the record, you feel confident that in this bill, there's enough language in here to demand enforcement and follow up on this bill?
You recognize?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Representative McKenzie?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And since the subcommittee, I had a chance to talk to the fire marshal and the folks at the state. And what I like about this particular piece, and I don't know if it's a change or not, it doesn't really matter, is the fact that there's a verification plan because, as you said, it's a dynamic, it's a moving target. Things that may have worked in a negative way, when I say work, was successful in one area, may not, they may go a different direction. So I like the fact that this plan is an annual plan, and that as unfortunately people think in a deeper and a darker and more sinister way that we can be proactive and not always being reactive. This is again, it's a good piece of legislation. I just want to make sure that it's a living document and a living process, so we can prevent these types of things from happening in the future.
Let's go to Representative Love.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sponsor, thank you for the bill. Just for clarification, were there any changes made in this amendment from special session, or is this the same language?
You recognize?
The amendment got the bill back into the exact same form that came through special session. For whatever reason, when it was filed for regular session, the wording wasn't exactly the same. So the amendment put it back into the format of the exact same form that passed through special session. That was my desire and goal, so that I could stand before you and say, this is the bill we passed. So the amendment, and y'all can all check me on that, please, and legal can too, but the amendment puts it back into the wording of what we passed in special session.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, sponsor. I'll be supporting.
Thank you, Representative
legislation.
Representative Parkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Mr. Sponsor, I'm supporting the bill also. But I do have a question. You know, I did serve on the fire department for 25 years. And, you know, sometimes, you know, when you know, a fire alarm goes off, you know, it takes time to know what the origin is. You can go to a box and look at the code, and sometimes you'll have water flow. You know, it could be from pressure changing, you know, in the water system. Sometimes you can have, you know, sprinkler heads that go off for whatever reason, and it could, you know, create a time delay. And so with that, is there a reason why we just didn't come up with a specific alarm specifically for these incidents other than fire alarms? And let me be clear, again, I'm supporting the bill, but I do want to know why we didn't come up with a specific sound that we use statewide for these types of situations.
Leader.
This doesn't preclude that. In fact, we passed a bill last year that would include some of that language. The best case scenario is that they would have different sets of alarms and everything else, but not every school is going to have the funding for that. Not every school is going to have the equipment for that. Obviously, your larger districts, you know, they're going to be able to install things like that. But this can be as simple as, I mean, the procedures we're talking about are the same things that you probably taught kids the whole time you were a firefighter. And a lot of folks don't know that about your history, but I do. And we've served together long enough. I mean, you spent decades as a firefighter and rose through the ranks. I mean, when I was a kid, firefighters would come into school and they teach us, look, if there's a fire, you know it's a fire, you look for smoke, you feel the door handle, you do things to determine whether it's safe to go through a door if there's a fire. That's the same thing we're talking about with this, is to teach those type of protocols, not just to the students, but also to the staff and the substitute teachers. Because when you have staff that are coming in that are temporary staff, they need to be trained on these protocols as well. They don't need to be in a school and when an alarm goes off, they don't know what it is. So if you have a differentiated alarm system, that would be part of the training to know what that is. In some of the schools throughout the state, it may be something as simple as it goes out over the PA. You know, lockdown, 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 bless you, lockdown, because that's also a method that is used. We're just saying, look, they've got to have procedures that if a fire alarm goes off, everybody knows exactly what to do so that this type of horrendous occurrence does not happen again. And again, this is one small part of what I hope will be many different bills to try to prevent these type of horrific incidents and murders. But that's what we're talking about. So we don't get prescriptive on this because every district is going to be a little bit different. But we make all the districts make those decisions.
Thank you.
Follow up.
Thank you, Leader. And I truly appreciate you bringing this bill. And I'm glad to know, though, that it doesn't preclude us from being able to create a distinguished sound for situations like this. Also, you know, and maybe we need to take a really serious look at funding to ensure that all the schools across the state are working uniformly and have, you know, so it's a recognized sound no matter where a student goes to school, you know, across our state, whether it's in Memphis or in your district, you know, but they'll recognize the same sound. So we keep our children safe. Greatly appreciate it, man. Good bill. Thank you.
Okay, members, that's the last one I had on the comment sheet. Leader Lambert, I come back to you. We're on House Bill 1644, members.
Members, I've said all there is to be said, and I didn't need to say anything really. Quite frankly, the language of this bill and the statement that you heard read from Ms. Kinney is what I would ask you to consider. And I would ask you just find in your heart to support this bill. And if you like it, I know myself and Ms. Kinney love for you to sign on. But today we would just ask for a vote of yes so that we can move on through.
Thank you very much. And I very much appreciate, as a former elementary school principal, I appreciate you bringing this and protecting of our children. Members are on House Bill 1644. Any objection to the question? Seeing none, all those in favor of moving 1644 out to calendar and rules indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Moves out, sir.
Thank you, members. Thank you so very much, Chairman.
Okay, members, now we're going to go to our confirmation hearings. We have 6 today. Our research analyst, Carly sent them out on your email, so you have their bios and under Carly Easley on that. And what I like to do, we have 6, so I'm just going to call you up in order. And if you start sitting in the seat on my right, your left, let's start with Dr. Michael Uwicki. If you'll come up and be seated. Next, we'll come up with Mr. Robert Carter, Mr. Darrell Cobbins, Chrissy McInturf, make sure I pronounce that right, Michael Wade, and Tony Treadway. And once y'all are seated, and members, this is not a consent calendar. We'll listen to each person, and we'll have to do an individual vote on each person. I think we got about 12 next week, and they will be on a consent calendar. So we're going to start. And first of all, let me say thank y'all for making the time and traveling up to Nashville today from all your busy schedules. And thank you for serving our state. Your roles are very important to our institutions, and we thank you for giving of your time. We're grateful. So I'm going to start with HJR 757 and it's Dr. Michael Uwicki. And let me just give you a brief introduction since he's a good friend of mine from back home in Memphis. Dr. Uwicki is a visionary healthcare executive who leverages business acumen, financial discipline, and strategic innovation to advance performance of diverse healthcare organizations. He's had over 25 years and designed and game-changing initiatives that deliver revenue growth and quality targets. He is the CEO of our Methodist hospital systems in Memphis. So I'm not going to keep going, but I want to let you take 2 minutes or so and just introduce yourself to the committee, and we thank you so very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to all of you for having me here today. I am.
And if you'll say your name one more time for our AV.
Got it. Again, my name is Michael Uwicki. I'm the president and CEO of Methodist Laverna Healthcare. I want to say thank you for the opportunity and the privilege to be here today. I'm here today to be confirmed again for the second term for the University of Tennessee Health Sciences Center in Memphis. As you can tell, I was not from Memphis. Lived in Memphis now for 15 years. I was born in Nigeria. Came to the United States 40 years ago to go to college. I went to Shaw University in Raleigh, North Carolina. Did my master's at Emory University in Atlanta and a doctorate in healthcare administration from Medical University of South Carolina in Charleston. I've had the privilege to work across the country over the last 38 years in healthcare, and I've been in Memphis now for over 15 years. So Memphis is home for us, and partnership with University of Tennessee Health Sciences is important as we are one of the health systems that help to train physicians, nurses, and allied health in the state of Tennessee, which is really where we have a lot of shortages for physicians. So again, I'm privileged to be here today. Thank you for having me.
Members, anyone have a question? Representative Slater?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Dr. Uwicki, for being here and for your willingness to serve. As I shared with you earlier today, you have a remarkable story. I was able to watch a YouTube video of an interview where you told your story, and I would encourage our members to take a look at the experience and the story of Dr. Uwicki. Thank you so much for being here and your willingness to serve.
Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Parkinson.
Chairman White, I don't want to fight today. I just want you to know that.
We're good.
We're good. Thank you, Michael, for being here. We truly appreciate it. Now, this is going to be an important question to you. What is your favorite zip code in Memphis, Tennessee? And you got 2 choices, 38128 or 38104. And it's important that you get this right.
Both of them are very important.
There was no all of the above. Right.
They're very important zip codes to us.
Right.
Because we serve the whole Memphis.
And I know they are. I just had to give you a hard time. And just so for those of you that don't know, Dr. Uwicki is a long time personal friend of mine. I watched him actually serve as the president of 2 hospitals at the same time, one in the north part of the city and one in the south part of the city. And I had no idea how an individual could have the capacity to serve as the leader of 2 hospitals at the same time. I also watched him mentor young people and groom them and prepare them for the roles that he was in at the time, and get them prepared so that they could fulfill those roles. And they did a wonderful job under his training. It was not easy, from what I was told, to be under his tutelage, but they survived it, and they've all gone on to become incredibly successful individuals. And so I have to say, hats off to you, my friend. I appreciate you, and I look forward to voting in the affirmative for you to be
Thank you.
on the board. Thank you.
Dr. Uwicki, you know he's not helping you, right? We love Representative Parkinson. Anyone else want to ask a question or make a comment? Thank you very much. I appreciate you so much. We had many conversations back during the years of the COVID and in a major healthcare organization where we had nursing shortage and everything. It was just a tough time. And so thank you for your service. Okay, members, we're on House Joint Resolution 757. Any objection to calling the question? Hearing none, all those in favor of moving House Joint Resolution 757 out to calendar and rules, indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. You are confirmed. Thank you. If you just stay there and while we go through the rest. Next is Mr. Robert Carter of our great corporation in Memphis, Tennessee, and the world, FedEx. And so let me give you a brief bio. Mr. Carter is an executive vice president at FedEx Information Services and the chief information officer of FedEx Corporation. He is a member of the executive committee, which plans and executes the corporation's strategic business activities. Mr. Carter also serves as co-president and co-CEO of FedEx Services, the shared service entity responsible for sales, marketing, information technology, and customer service. And Mr. Carter joined the FedEx in 1993 and has more than 40 years of systems development and implementation experience. I can't imagine the day-to-day operations of a corporation global like FedEx, and we're so fortunate to not only have you, but also to have your willingness to this will be for an appointment on the University of Memphis Board of Trustees. You're recognized. Go ahead and share a few things with the committee.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. I'm a product of public education through primary, secondary, my undergraduate university work, and my graduate work. I believed for a long time that education set my life on a path that was productive and really made my life something that I couldn't have possibly imagined without that education. Having been in Memphis for 30 years, I've worked with the last 4 university presidents at the University of Memphis. I have 2 kids that have also graduated from the University of Memphis. I didn't graduate there, but that was part of my life, was being a parent. We founded the FedEx Institute of Technology there. I'm a huge believer and supporter of the school, and believe that this is a great opportunity for me to give back to public education and to our city in a way that's important to our company and our state.
Thank you very much.
And-
Members, anyone like to ask a question? Representative Boso?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and hello, Mr. Carter. Thank you for being here. My question is this. Obviously, the University of Memphis has an admissions process, and in June of last year, we had a new Supreme Court decision that was written by Justice Roberts in the Students for Fair Admissions versus Harvard case. And one of the things that the Supreme Court, through Justice Roberts, said was that universities and colleges should no longer be allowed to consider race as a basis for admission. That is, according to Justice Roberts, the best way to stop discrimination on the basis of race is to stop discriminating on the basis of race. And my question simply is this: do you agree with Justice Roberts and the holding in Students for Fair Admissions versus Harvard College? And will the University of Memphis comply with that decision?
Mr. Carter?
Well, first, I believe that it's very important we follow the law, follow the rule of law for everything that we administer, and the accountability that goes along with that is very important. However, as a trustee, it's really an administrative issue. I'm 100% sure that the administration believes that that rule of law and that the importance of following that is their duty and their accountability. So I would support them in that process.
Thank you. Members, anyone else? Well, thank you. Members, I was going to say this. I was in Memphis the other day out on a meeting, and I was heading eastward towards the Memphis airport. And just amazing, if you haven't seen this, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, this given day, we have two main runways in the Memphis airport. And heading out south, it was like the deck of an aircraft carrier, a FedEx plane every 45 seconds. Hitting the air from one runway to the other. It's just amazing, amazing operation. And we're very fortunate not only for Memphis, but for Tennessee to have that. Thank you. House Joint Resolution 757 for confirmation to the University of Memphis Board of Trustees. 759. Yes, House Joint Resolution 759. Any objections to the question? Hearing none, all those in favor of moving House Joint Resolution 759 out to calendar and rules indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Your confirmation is approved. Item number 3 on your calendar committee, House Joint Resolution 764. This is a confirmation appointment for the State Board of Education, and Mr. Darrell Cobbins. Made sure I had that right. Darrell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. My name is Darrell Cobbins. I've had the privilege of serving on the State Board of Education for roughly the past 6.5 years, originally appointed by Governor Haslam in 2017. This time last year, had the privilege of being elected as vice chair by my colleagues, and have had the opportunity to make policy and understand the needs of students and districts across the entire state of Tennessee. We've made it through some really treacherous times during 2020, 2021 with the pandemic, and a lot of the policies and remedies that had to be enacted to make sure that students were still learning. And since that time, make up for learning loss and other challenges. We've implemented policies related to TISA and the laws passed by the legislature. And we look forward to the collaborative relationships that we've had with the Tennessee Department of Education, Tennessee Higher Education Commission, and other organizations that are focused on student achievement. One thing that you won't read in my bio that is really central to my original acceptance of the appointment by Governor Haslam is my son, Brooks Cobbins. He's a special needs child with autism, and my desire, I knew I shouldn't have talked about him. My desire in serving on the state board really has been central to making sure that children like Brooks don't get forgotten, and that I be a voice for parents who have been on similar journeys, just trying to make sure that their children get what they need and that they can learn and ultimately be successful. And if we can make sure that our most vulnerable children are successful, then we can make sure all students are successful. So glad to be here.
Thank you. Very well said. Representative Parkinson.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, you would call on me first this time, wouldn't you? Darrell, I just want to tell you, thank you, man, for your willingness to serve, man. You've been a staple in the Memphis community for as long as I can remember, from our days of community activism and you know, just working on the ground with the people, and you know, you've always been a stand-up dude, and I truly appreciate you. Truly appreciate everything that you're doing to our community. So I guess I'm not going to ask you what your favorite zip code is, but thank you again for your service. I truly appreciate you.
Thank you. Representative Fritz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Commons, thank you for your service to the state. I appreciate it, and I appreciate your passion. And I thought your resume was tremendous when I got a chance to read over it, your economic development, your real estate, and just a couple thoughts maybe from you on how you take your life experience, economic development, real estate professional, and how you help our state education process with that.
Certainly. Well, what we've spent a lot of time in most recent years on the state board establishing as priority is ensuring that our young people are prepared for opportunities after graduation and that they do graduate. And so we've worked collaboratively with organizations like SCORE, THEC, and others to make sure that industry and education are having a conversation and finding ways that they can work together. And so as someone who's been in business for now 25 years, having the opportunity to be involved with organizations like Tennessee Business Roundtable, and bringing them together to the table with education organizations, we help foster that synthesis of making sure that we're meeting the needs of employers and that we're producing productive citizens that can add to Tennessee's success.
Thank you. And I also like to add, appreciate your work with us at the Excel Center in Memphis, a great organization that gives high school diplomas for those who weren't able to graduate originally. And so it's for adults, and it's doing a great work in Memphis. So thank you for your support on that. Members, we're on House Joint Resolution 764, confirmation of Mr. Darrell Cobbins to the State Board of Education. Any objection to the question? Hearing none, all those in favor of moving HJR 764 out to calendar and rules indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. You're confirmed, sir. Thank you. I'm going to invite Ms. Representative Rebecca Alexander up to the podium. This next confirmation is for Chrissy McInturf for the State Board of Education. Representative, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Board. It is a great honor to be here today. Representative Hicks and I, I'm not sure if he's still in the room or not, if he's off to committee, but we're very honored to have Chrissy join the State Board of Education. She's a native of Bristol, Tennessee. She earned her BS degree in early childhood development, a Master of Education in elementary education from Milligan University, where I did my undergrad in education. Chrissy is currently pursuing a PhD in history from Liberty University as a Tennessee public school teacher for 15 years. She has served in many leadership roles, including being one of the district's 10 core learning leaders, chairing various committees, being named the 2015 Washington County Teacher of the Year. Ms. McInturf has taught third grade, first grade, RTI, fourth grade, ELA, and social studies. Ms. McInturf has been awarded several grants during her career that provided her students with resources, including iPads, touch math tickets, subsidy grant multiple times, providing funding for tickets and transportation for entire grade level to attend Barter Theater plays. Chrissy is a member and a Sunday school class teacher at Hope Church and lives in Jonesboro with her husband, Rob, and they have two sons, Mac and Ted. It's a great honor to introduce her to this board.
Thank you for that introduction. And we're now going to Ms. McInturf. You're recognized. If you state your name for the AV record. And
my name is Chrissy McInturf, and like she said, I've been teaching for 15 years. This is my 16th year. I'm so humbled to be here. Thank you all for allowing me this opportunity. My favorite thing to teach my students is about government and our amazing democracy we have here, and just to be part of this is just amazing. When I was first contacted about being on the state board this summer, it just seemed to be the perfect time. My kids who are here, they're getting older, and I have the time to do this. I wanted to have a different kind of voice, but not be able to have to leave the classroom. So have some leadership, but be able to still do what I love. And so this is just the perfect fit for me. And I look forward to continuing with the State Board of Education.
Well, thank you so much for your service as a teacher. We need a lot more of y'all. So thank you very much for doing that. Members, you have a question, comment? Representative Parkinson?
Just, and I'm not going to talk on all y'all, but I did want you to know that your colleague over there across from you gave you high marks with me today when I was asking about you. Yeah. So yeah, just tap him on the shoulder or something when you get finished. Okay. There you go. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, and Jonesboro is such a beautiful community. I have some friends up there. I love coming up to Upper East Tennessee, being from Memphis, and y'all always had to remind me every time I come up to Bristol in that area that you're closer to Canada than you are Memphis.
We have to, yeah.
Yeah, which is by miles is true. Representative Fritz?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Ms. McIntyre, for willingness to serve and put hours on your day for the good of Tennessee. And just a quick unrelated question, but curiosity, what made you choose Liberty University for your doctoral program?
Well, I love that the values that they have. I love that even though I'm getting a history, it's more history PhD. I've got to learn more about the Bible and Christianity and the values of that. But it's also one of the only history PhD programs that are 100% online. So that, yeah.
Anyone else? Committee members? Seeing none. Okay, members, we are on House Joint Resolution 765 for confirmation for the State Board of Education, Ms. Chrissy McInturf. Any objection to the question? Seeing none, all those in favor of moving 765 resolution out to calendar rules, and it can be saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. We're now going to item 5, House Joint Resolution 770. Is Representative Baum? There you are. I will recognize you for introductions.
Thank you, Chairman White. I am honored and pleased to be able to introduce Michael Wade to you all. He is originally from Murfreesboro. He attended MTSU, graduated from MTSU, and has since gone on to be successful in the insurance industry. He owns his own company and is an executive and a sales member for State Farm Auto, where he's in charge of that territory's budget and compliance with various laws and regulations. He's a big supporter of the university, both our academics and our athletics. I think we would benefit from him being on the board, sharing with us the skills that are needed in the insurance industry so that we can make sure that we're teaching our students skills that will lead directly into jobs. He lives in St. Louis, Missouri, and I would like to ask him what his record time is getting back to MTSU to athletic events from St. Louis. How quickly can the trip be made?
Thank you. Mr. Wade, you are recognized for some comments.
Thank you. It could be made in 4 hours and 45 minutes if you don't stop. So as indicated, I am Michael Wade. And first of all, to the chairman and the committee, thank you for having me here today. And as Mr. Baum pointed out, one of the reasons that I am excited to be here is my love for the university, which is shown by the fact that we have quite the support today, and that means a lot to me and my family. Married to Kimberly Wade for 36 years. We have 3 kids. 2 graduated from the University of Missouri. Don't hold that against us. But my youngest, what I'm proud to say, is a graduate of Middle Tennessee State University. We love the university so much that we bought a home years ago so she could get acclimated to the area because we thought that much of the leadership and the people there. So again, thank you for having me here today.
Thank you so very much. Representative Love.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and we certainly thank you for all your service and work. I did want to let you know that as I was contemplating whether I would vote for you, I was leaning that way, but then Lucas Johnson came and threatened me. And so he's back there. Is Lucas still back there? Good to see you, Lucas. And so, no, he didn't threaten me, but he's been there for many years and well respected. And so he thinks so much of you also. So I wanted to give you that word.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Boso.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Mr. Wade, thank you for being here.
Yes, sir.
I want to ask you the same question that I asked Mr. Carter. Obviously, fairness in admissions is important at all of our colleges. and universities across the state. And we've had this recent Supreme Court decision from Justice Roberts and the other justices in Students for Fair Admissions versus Harvard, where they were encountering some schools that were discriminating against students with Asian background because of that background. And my question simply is this: do you understand and agree with the holding in that case that discrimination on the basis of race is not appropriate in determining admissions of students? And will you act to the extent necessary to make sure that MTSU complies with the holding in that case?
Yes, thank you for the question.
Mr.
And
Wade,
yes,
you're
absolutely.
recognized.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the question. And as Rob said, as a trustee member, we're to follow the law and as outlined. And the administration does a great job. And we support and partner with the administration that we feel confident that their understanding of the law as presented to the Board of Trustees, that we will support that.
Thank you, members. Anyone else? Okay, we're on House Joint Resolution 770 for the confirmation of Mr. Michael Wade to the Middle Tennessee State University Board of Trustees. Any objection to calling the question? Seeing none, all those in favor of moving 770 out to calendar rules indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much, Mr. Wade. Appreciate your service. Such a growing area down in that way. That brings us to HJR 772. Ms. Representative Alexander, you're recognized again. This is for the confirmation of the appointment of Mr. Tony Treadway to ETSU, or East Tennessee State University Board of Trustees. You're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, committee. I've known Tony Treadway for as long as I can remember, and it's a great honor today to read his bio for you and tell you about him. Tony Treadway is the president and the CEO of the Creative Energy Group Incorporated. He's a native of Erwin, Tennessee, and a veteran journalist, brand marketing strategist, a founder of the top full-service advertising agency located in Johnson City. He's a graduate of ETSU with a BS in Mass Communications and Political Science, graduating magna cum laude in 1977. During his senior year, he served as a legislative intern to the House of Representatives on Conservation and Environment Committee. He was elected to the Johnson City School Board from 1991 to 1999. Through his leadership, city voters approved the People's Education Plan, which was a 1/4% tax, or 1/4 cent of sales tax dollars going to school building funds. That continues to support new schools in our area for students more than a generation later. He is currently a member of Johnson City's Industrial Development Board. As an ardent supporter of ETSU, he contributed to and raised funds to build our William B. Green Stadium at ETSU. And in 2021, the ETSU Alumni Association presented him with an award of honor. He also was honored by his entry into the ETSU Mass Communications Department's Hall of Fame. Today, his company employs more than 35 professionals in service to clients worldwide, many of whom are ETSU graduates. Before founding Creative Energy, Tony served as Director of Communications for Nuclear Fuel Services of Erwin, Tennessee. He has been the Assistant News Director and Anchor for Channel 11 WJHL TV also prior to that. He and his wife, Teresa, have 2 children, 2 grandchildren, and they reside in Johnson City.
Thank you for the introduction. And Mr. Treadway, before I recognize you, I want to recognize the president of the ETSU, Dr. Brian Nolan. If you stand, sir, and thank you for your service to the University of ETSU. Thank you for being here with us. Mr. Treadway, you're recognized for a couple minutes of comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, everyone here in the committee. I also want to thank Governor Lee and the trust that he had in appointing me to the Board of Trustees. And I want to thank each and every one of you and everyone in the legislature for the commitment that you've made to ETSU over the last few years. You've donated millions of dollars to improve the facilities at our operation. You've helped us with the pharmacy school, and I've got some good news. We met with Representative Reagan just a few moments ago, and he's very much about testing and results. We just heard back that the pharmacy students, as far as their pass rate, when they become certified, we had the highest rate in the Southeast and number 2 in the nation. So your investment is paying off at ETSU. This year, we had the highest number of freshmen entering ETSU. We had the largest class of grad students in the history of ETSU. So thank you for your the big thing that I want to do at ETSU is to make sure that ETSU graduates some of the top kids out of their programs to be across the country. That's my commitment as an employer. We've had several students, ETSU grads, that's gone on to do major things in the world of mass communications. I want to do that for all the students. And I want to make sure the school reflects the spirit of Northeast Tennessee. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And before we move on, Representative Baum, I kept looking out there, didn't see him, but go ahead and recognize.
Thank you, Chairman White. I'd also like to recognize President Sidney McPhee from MTSU. He and his team are here as well from Murfreesboro.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry. I kept looking for you, but I didn't see you back there. Nice to have MTSU president. With that explanation or those comments by Mr. Treadway, questions, comments, Representative Fritz?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Treadway, thank you for your service. A couple quick questions. First, what years did you serve at Nuclear Fuels? And then secondly, how do you plan on using your energy background experience, because that's fertile soil for uranium technologies, to help us solve our energy crisis and using East Tennessee State to do?
Thank you. I served there from 1987 to 1992, and then I formed a company called Creative Energy. The connection there is the nuclear power that really generated the folks to start the company. I'm a firm believer when used well, nuclear power is a source that everyone should turn to. Many students of University of Tennessee's nuclear engineering program are employed at Nuclear Fuel Services today. And I'm proud to say that at ETSU, we're moving more and more toward engineering degrees in cooperation with Tennessee Tech University. So I'm a wholehearted supporter of the science of engineering.
Thank you. Anyone else? Representative Bolso?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, Mr. Treadway. This question will not come as a surprise to you. This is the same one I asked to Mr. Carter and Mr. Wade. I mean, do you agree that fairness in the admissions process is important? And will you work at ETSU to the extent necessary to make sure that it complies with the law, including the Supreme Court decision in Students for Fair Admissions versus Harvard?
I will make that commitment to follow what the rule of law is, not only federal law, but state of Tennessee laws and regulations to uphold your TCA. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, anyone else like to ask a question or comment? Mr. Treadway? Seeing none, okay, we're on House Joint Resolution 772, which is the confirmation of the appointment of Mr. Tony Treadway to the East Tennessee State University Board of Trustees. Any objection to the calling the question? Seeing none, all those in favor of moving 772 out to calendar and rules indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you so very much, committee, and thank you also very much for taking your time and being here. And we have such a great university system across the state of Tennessee, and y'all represent our LGIs very, very well. Mr. Carter, thank y'all for being here and keep pumping strong for Memphis. We appreciate that very much. Thank y'all. Y'all may excuse yourself. We're going to move right into committee. So members, if you give me your attention, we're now on House Bill 1630 by Representative Sapicki. You are recognized. You have a motion and a second. And I also see that you have a couple amendments. Are we on both or one?
We'll be on one, Mr. Chairman. It'll be drafting code 012646.
Drafting code 1012646. Members, is the amendment. It says it got a motion, have a second. on the amendment. It does rewrite the bill. Members, could we go ahead and add it so that we can have proper discussion? Any objection? Seeing none, all those in favor of adding Amendment 1, 2, 6, 4, 6 to the House Bill 1630 indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Your bill is properly amended. You may now explain your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the bill about how we are going to be prescriptive and how our colleges and universities, our K through 12 system, and our charter schools are going to be able to use artificial intelligence in regards to how professors, teachers, and students, the do's and the don'ts, and ask them all to create a policy so that we can move forward knowing that our academic integrity will be in place. What this amendment does, and Representative McKenzie in committee made a very good point, and I want to just go over that real quick. The original language of the bill had that the universities had to create a rule. And the rule process, as Chairman Reagan knows, is very long and lengthy. And so what this does, it gives them the flexibility to create a policy, but in that policy, in the different sections, it talks about public institutions of higher education are encouraged to collaborate in development. So we're asking our higher education universities to work together to put together an AI policy that is seamless across the state of Tennessee. Also, they'll be required to post it to the website so that everybody will be aware of this. There'll be reporting mechanisms back to government operations, to Chairman Reagan or whoever is there, to make sure that they stay in compliance with whatever policy that they have in place. It also addresses K through 12 and charter school with the same thing of crafting these policies to get them in place by the 24-25 school year. Mr. Chairman, that's what the bill does. I'll be happy to answer questions from the committee.
Okay, members, with that explanation, we have a couple of questions. Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the sponsor. I really appreciate you, one, just being true to your word, and more importantly, identifying this as an emerging issue. That this whole technology, you know, it's a great technology that can be used for bad, and for us to get out in front of this in a way that one, the universities can clearly develop these policies, but also do some crosstalk with each other. Is really make this, you know, even more of a solid bill. So thank you for that.
Representative Love? Okay, how about Chairman Reagan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank the sponsor for bringing this bill. I think it's one that is time is ripe for us to consider and pass it. I want to also mention that the University of Tennessee Knoxville has agreed to be the center point for the coordination and collaboration that he spoke of. So we have a mechanism with a volunteer from our state to collaborate with the others and convene them so that they have similar, if not the same, approaches to this particular problem. Again, I'd like to thank the sponsor, and I'll be supporting the bill. Thank you.
Chairman speaking.
And thank you. And just want to expand on this a little bit. And Chairman, it may be something that this committee looks into, or maybe some presentations on artificial intelligence. The technology that is out there is incredible as an asset for our students and our professors and our teachers. But there also is the other side of this that we need to make sure that we are well aware of. Some of the technology out there in artificial intelligence in with tutoring is incredible with these students. So I think this is the beginning of a process in artificial intelligence in Tennessee. It's something that we're going to have to be very flexible on because it's going to continue to change every day, every hour, every minute.
Thank you very much. And I agree. And I appreciate you bringing the bill to bring attention to it, because it's one of these things that technology has the power to do a great amount of good or the power not to. And so we need to have policies, procedures moving forward. Representative Love? Anyone else?
And
Chairman speaking.
just to follow up on that, once again, we are the first state in the country taking the lead on this. So once again, Tennessee is leading.
Wonderful. Good news. Members, anyone else? We're on House Bill 1630 by Chairman Sapicki. Question's been called. Any objection to the question? Hearing none, all those in favor of moving House Bill 1630 out to government ops, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, sir. And you now have House Bill 1655, Chairman Sapicki. You're recognized.
That is correct.
You have a motion and a second. Do we have an amendment to deal with?
We do have an amendment, but it does not make the bill. It adds to the bill, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, would you like to go ahead and explain the bill first then?
I will. It's two very simple corrections here. In dealing with the Department of Education, if you look at the original bill on Section 2A, it talks about December 31st of 24. of being able to identify and have the professional development courses back here for our students. The department feels that that is a very, very strict and tight timeline. They were worried that they were not going to be able to meet that deadline because what we're talking about doing right now doesn't exist in the country. So we are cutting edge right here in mathematics and how we're going to do this. So the first change is pushing that back to July 1st of 2025 to give them enough time. And then the second correction is in the last part of the bill, Mr. Chairman. Legal did catch in there on Section C. It talks about the department shall report the findings and conclusions of the landscape analysis no later than December 31st of 2024. Well, Mr. Chairman, there's an election in November. This committee will not exist then. So we're pushing it back to January 31st of 2025. Therefore, that gives the General Assembly of the 114th to reconvene, have the committees appointed so they can make a report to a standing committee, Mr. Chairman. That's the two changes on the amendment.
Okay, what you just explained to was the amendment that we need to add, right?
Yes.
The amendment that we're referring to is 012356,
Correct, sir.
correct? Motion and second on the amendment. Any questions on the amendment? Seeing none, any reason that we can't call the question? All those in favor of moving the amendment 12356 onto House Bill 1655 indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have. We're now on your bill fully and properly amended. You're recognized.
Members, this is just the basic start of the Mathematics Support Act. It's directing the Department of Education to convene a group to study this, comprised of mathematics educators in our state and mathematics experts, not only in this state, but nationwide, on how we are going to teach, to implement professional development for our teachers, for our teaching students, going forward in the state of Tennessee. We all know the tremendous results we've had with the Literacy Success Act in English language arts. Our math scores have not advanced like we've wanted to, and so we're going to start to look at that on how we can come up with procedures, plans, policies, professional development, teaching with our educational prep providers to establish the math and how we're going to deliver it to our students in Tennessee. That's what the bill does, Mr. Chairman. I'll answer questions.
Thank you. Representative Love.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Chairman Sapik, I know your desires to get our students to a higher level of mathematics achievement is commendable. I would just caution that as we had some hiccups with the reading and literacy piece, that we be very cognizant to include all stakeholders from across the state and talk about the ways that we can get to where you're trying to get to with that. Yes, sir.
Chairman Spicki.
That was one of the key components of this bill, Chairman, or Representative Love, to make sure that we are talking to our mathematics educators in Tennessee, we're talking to our experts in Tennessee, and then whatever questions they have, reaching out to those states that may be doing it at a very high level, talk to those experts and maybe incorporate some of those policies.
Representative Fritz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to the sponsor, thank you for bringing this bill. I know it's easy for us sometimes to focus on all the challenges that we have ahead, but leadership like this and bringing this type of legislation is why I think Tennessee is positioned to be, from our K through 12 into our colleges and universities, the very best in the nation. And I would argue in many ways we are today. So thank you for bringing this.
Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Representative Fritz. I take phone calls from across the country of legislators that are watching what we're doing in Tennessee. They are going to intently watch what we do with mathematics and start to let Tennessee like we are leading education.
Absolutely, and I appreciate you taking the lead on this. As I mentioned before, I sat on the national board, NAEP, National Assessment of Educational Progress, and all 50 states, math really did worse than reading because coming out of the years of COVID and everything. So focusing on our math scores is very, very important if we're going to continue to lead in Tennessee. So thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else would like to ask a question of Chairman Sapicki? Seeing none, we're on. We got House Bill 1655. Any further comments? Any objection to the question? All those in favor of moving 1655 out to government ops indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, sir. Yes, we will combine those two amendments into one. Members, keep your seat. we have a very important presentation briefly today. I asked Tennessee Higher Education Commission to come by and give us an update. We have a new director, Dr. Gentile. There he is. If you'll come forward, sir, and state your name for the record and give us a few minutes, an update, and we'll have some questions, and then before we convene the committee today. You're recognized.
Okay, thank you, Chairman White, members of the committee. My name is Stephen Gentile. I'm the new executive director at the Tennessee Higher Education Commission. I joined as the permanent executive director back in November of 2023. It's an honor to be with you today. I'm joined today by Dr. Jacob Kamer, who's our data strategist. I'm going to speak to some updates at THEC and what we're looking forward to the next year and the decades to come for higher education as well. And then we're going to transition to talking about the food insecurity report that we put out back in December. That was legislation from a couple of years back for us to study food insecurity in higher education. And so we'll speak to that. And Dr. Kamer, he helped author that bill, author that report. So happy to talk to that as well. It is an honor to be in front of you today as the executive director at the Higher Ed Commission. I've been at the commission now for over a decade, started there as a fiscal policy analyst, moved on to research and policy, became chief policy officer about 4 years ago. But in truth, my journey there started over a decade ago as an intern, an unpaid intern at the Higher Ed Commission. I had heard before I even came to Tennessee as a graduate student, but especially while I was here, of all the great advancements this state was doing in higher education, known across the country for the movements that the General Assembly, the administration, the commission itself, TSAC, as well as our institutions were doing in all aspects of higher education. And I wanted to be part of that conversation. So I did stay for a semester as an unpaid intern and gradually got taken on as an analyst. And it's been an honor ever since. What we do at the commission and what we do at the state level for higher education is that we don't make decisions that are intended to immediately just impact the next academic year. We make decisions that impact decades to come. As higher education is proven to be the key, the strongest key to bringing students out of poverty, Tennesseans out of poverty, bringing communities great opportunity for success, and for the state of Tennessee as well. We are thinking about decades to come and how we can build a better economy. And we know, looking at what higher education does for our Tennesseans, that the best way to recession-proof the economy in Tennessee is to work on and make better our higher education system. This chart here in front of you shows you what has happened over the last 2 decades with the 2 Great Recession and the pandemic recession. And what we identify here is that there's been an addition of 361,000 jobs for those who have a bachelor's degree or more. About 50,000 extra jobs for those who have an associate degree. And for those who have no more than a high school degree, we've seen a reduction in jobs coming out of the recessions. The best way to bounce back for a recession from any family in Tennessee is to have that post-secondary preparation. My partner in the Department of Labor and Workforce Development, Commissioner Thomas, I know they are always actively looking at the labor force participation rates, the percentage of the civilian population that is working. We're looking at that as well constantly. And the data we have here in front of you show that on average, the labor force participation rate, and this is from December of 2023, so the most recent data, in Tennessee is 59.4%. For those with a bachelor degree, it's about 15 percentage points higher than those who have a high school diploma. For those with an associate degree, it's about 6 percentage points higher. Again, it is our key to success to focus on higher education for the benefits of Tennesseans and their prosperity decades to come. I want to take a quick look back and talk about those decades movements and what we've been doing in the state level for higher education, and then to project forward as well as where we're going.
Hey, members, this is on your dashboard, this presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Go ahead.
Over the last 20 years, we've had substantial changes in higher education that is very much impacting higher education today. 20 years ago, with the development of the Tennessee Lottery and the TELS program, we've given out since then over 2 million scholarships for those Tennesseans to stay in here in Tennessee. I want to thank President Nolan from ETSU, who formerly worked at Tennessee Higher Education Commission, who very much at the staff level helped get that off the ground. Today, the TELS report, the TELS program allows us to continue expanding into new opportunities, dual enrollment, Tennessee Reconnect, Tennessee Promise, based on the decision made 2 decades ago. In 2010, Complete College Tennessee Act which made us the true leader in the nation when it came to bringing reform to higher education. We implemented the outcomes-based funding formula, which moves 100% of operating revenue for our community colleges and universities. From there, we've had increases in graduation rates in both sectors. We've had thousands more of associate degrees passing the graduation stage and bachelor degrees at our universities. But why this is important today for higher education is because as the vision changes for higher education, as the values of the General Assembly change, we can use this formula to help change behavior at our institutions. A couple of years ago, we integrated into the formula extra bonus points money, essentially, for degrees produced in high-need fields. It set the stage for how we can affect higher education policy today. Tennessee Promise, we've given out over 120,000 Tennessee Promise students have received financial aid. That came in 2014. We're entering into our 10th year of operation. And then last but not least, the Focus Act. 2016, it was passed by this body. 2017, put into action, where we saw some of the appointees up here today from ETSU, Memphis as well. Focus allowed for local governance at our 6 independent universities: Austin Peay, ETSU, MTSU, Tennessee State, Tennessee Tech, and University of Memphis. With it, also gave the state some new responsibility, and that was control over tuition, undergraduate tuition. In the years building up to Focus, we saw some institutions have as high as 15% increase in tuition in 1 year. Over the last 10 years, adjusting for inflation, consumer price index, what our Tennesseans are experiencing around the table, the kitchen table, we see that tuition prices have actually gone down and adjusted for inflation since the Focus Act, and they're below where they were in real dollars from 10 years ago. So these policy moves that we make decades ago affect where we are now and where we're going. This is important to me as I have a kindergartner. My youngest son just started kindergarten this past year, and his classroom theme, by the way, is MTSU. I wish President McPhee was still here, and we talk more about that. But I, in my role, am thinking not necessarily about what college will look like for him in the next couple of years, but when he exits high school in 2036, where are we going to be as an organization? Where are we going to be as a state? So looking forward, we've got a couple of things that we're working on right now, and then other things I'm looking forward to implementing in the coming year or two to help affect change in the next couple of decades. Right now, we are looking at our academic program approval process. We approve all degrees in Tennessee at the commission level. We are hearing from state administration, General Assembly. We're hearing from institutions that it would be really nice if we can get through that process a little faster so we could be more nimble as a state for our economy. As of last week at our last commission meeting, we have implemented some changes that will shave off 50% of the time from the idea at the institution to approval at our commission. Right now, we are also looking into, we have a capital task force that involves members of the administration and the General Assembly and the institutions looking into our capital outlay review process. Is it meeting the true needs of the state, the facility needs of our institutions, and the future economy workforce needs of the state as well in the regions? In the coming weeks, we'll be proposing a new process and what that looks like and sharing that with our partners. The governor's investment in vocational education has already given out 55 projects of upwards of $2 million to institutions of higher education across the state and also into industry. We are about to release our Give 3.0 RFP in the coming weeks. We have about $40 million to distribute. We're looking forward to better articulating and connecting workforce with higher education through the programs and the equipment that the Give program offers our institutions and our students. And we have across the state a number of college advisors and high schools, a number of college advisors who serve as Navigate Reconnectors, who help adult students see the way onto higher education. We're looking at those two groups and identifying how can we expand those resources with the personnel that we have to help in, for instance, help the HTL counties, Tipton, Lauderdale, out west, prepare their citizenry, their adults, for what Ford will require in the burgeoning industry as well. We're working with the superintendents of those 3 counties. Looking forward, ongoing changes that I would like to see us moving on right now. It's our role as an agency to ensure that all of our sectors of higher education are working together and that students who enter at a TCAT can end up at a university if that's their plan. Tennessee Promise students who want to get that bachelor's degree but want to go to a community college to take advantage of Tennessee Promise first, they are able to transfer seamlessly onto a university. That came through the CCTA, Complete College Tennessee Act, transfer pathways. We have a lot of work to make those even more efficient and effective. And we are starting right now on implementing changes to those to yield that in the future. Credentials of value. Are you able to take the degree you get from one institution and take it on to another and build on top of that? Does that credential that you get, is it getting you a thriving wage once you graduate? What are credentials of value? Right now, we are working to help define that so that when our commission, when our institutions are thinking through how we can increase credentials of value, we're starting from a standard definition. And the last thing I want to address from this page here is enhancing our data analytics. We have fantastic data at the Higher Education Commission that honestly originated back in 2004 when the lottery was passed, came with that a very strong and robust data system. How can we use that data system and matching it into our P20 system, the Department of Labor, Workforce and Development, to peer into the future, decades from now, to identify what are the needs of our regions when it comes to the workforce, and what do we need to be doing in academic programs, in capital, in financial aid, and operating dollars to help get us where we need to based on that data. So I'm excited on the decades to come and where we're going. And I look forward to working with you and for you to help deliver for higher education what the state needs. The last point of the bullet point was working with learning loss brought about by COVID. This has been a conversation starter that we've had a couple of years now. Coming into COVID and out of COVID, we had a great decline in the college going rate, the number of students who leave high school and go straight into college. The reason why this leading indicator is important to us is because we know that if students don't enter college straight out of high school, we have a harder time getting them back into college, especially if they're identifying they need that in their career. Tennessee Promise brought college going rate up substantially about 10 years ago. In the last 3 years, it declined drastically during COVID, and equivalently losing about 7,500 students who would have gone on to college straight from high school. I'm happy to say last year we saw an uptick, an increase in that, where about 2,000 more students are going. But we're looking back at this and also seeing, my second grader had a very different experience in kindergarten than my kindergartner has now. That impact of the pandemic on students who were in kindergarten 2 years ago, I predict will live with them as they go through that pipeline and they graduate. Will higher education tomorrow in 10 years be prepared for that? That's also on my mind right now. I'd like to transition briefly to our food insecurity report. And again, thank you for your time on this and granting this time to us to deliver this. 2 sessions ago, TCA 49-7-214 was passed calling on the Higher Ed Commission to do a study and evaluation of food insecurity in Tennessee at our higher education institutions. Many states have been looking into food insecurity. It's not new to Tennessee to be doing this. This report, as robust as it is being seen as an industry leader right now in it. But we've seen Louisiana, Maryland, Minnesota, Colorado, just a number of states already be looking into food insecurity. To get at the intent of the legislation, we've done 3 things. I want to thank, again, Dr. Kamer for leading it. And if you have more than surface level questions, believe me, he's the one going to be answering it, as he spent a lot of time and effort on this over the last 18 months, along with a graduate assistant of ours. We had a statewide convening where we brought together personnel at our institutions who are working in the space of student needs and food insecurity to ask them what's working, what's not, what are you seeing on the ground, what are some best practices. We conducted a comprehensive literature review that's a part of our report, and this, by the way, if you put your image up there, your camera up there, you can get that report from our website. And in that literature review, we learned a lot about food insecurity in higher education specifically, including, and I'll define food insecurity here in a second, but finding that students across the country, undergraduate students across the country, are twice as likely to be food insecure than the general population. And we did a survey of campus administrators as well, 29 institutions, asking them what they're seeing from food insecurity on their campus. Food insecurity, this is a USDA definition off to the right. There are 4 different levels of food insecurity, going from food insecure to food secure. We were asking questions related to marginal food security all the way over to that far right, very low food insecurity. Very low food insecurity are those students who are actively hungry, will have disrupted eating because they don't have access to food. Marginal food security is more of a students don't necessarily know if they'll have meals on Friday, and today is Monday. They're getting anxious about that, but they're likely to get that food, but still it's not necessarily a sure game for them. We discovered that food insecurity varies across student populations and across institutions as well. Food insecurity is prevalent on all of our campuses, and upwards of 30% at our campuses, which is right around the national average. But there are differences between food insecurity at community colleges versus universities, where the former is likely to have more food insecure students. The literature suggests that food insecurity does bring about lower academic performance. It can reduce credit hour accumulation, especially if students need to step away from the academic experience to work to make sure that they can eat. And the act of not having as secure food access can lower their physical as well as mental health concerns. So again, what we learned from our convenings and our surveys is that upwards of 30% of our students at our institutions are likely to be food insecure. All institutions that we surveyed, we had 29, again, all universities, all community colleges, and a handful of TCATs. I say a handful of TCATs. We reached out to the TCATs that we know have already have people dedicated to looking at food insecurity on their campuses, and we surveyed them. So not all TCATs are represented here, but of all 29 of our institutions, all of them are in some way attempting to address food insecurity in some way, in some manner. At our community colleges and universities, there are food pantries. At a number of our institutions, there are completion grants that allow students to have a grant to pay for groceries, for instance. But there's nothing systemic, nothing that's, let's say, a uniform policy across all institutions. Recommendations that we have. What I didn't mention earlier is that as an unpaid intern, I've always been drawn to the fiscal responsibility of the state and how we're able to accomplish things without spending necessarily lots of resources. Our number one recommendation is that there are already entities at the federal level and at the state level who are working on food insecurity. Department of Labor and Workforce Development, DHS, they have active programs to help those who qualify for SNAP get access to SNAP when they didn't know they had access to SNAP. There are opportunities for us to do that at our institutions as well, and there are pockets of this happening, but our recommendation is to look into how can we better connect federal and state resources that are already there to help these food insecurity students. Another recommendation is dedicating resources, whether it's institutional resources or other resources to help with those completion grants. We've also recommended adopting the adoption of the Hunger-Free Campus Bill. The Hunger-Free Campus Bill is mostly a designation. This is used in other states that say if this institution has a food pantry or if they have a meal plan donation system, they can qualify as having a hunger-free campus. And that's a recommendation we put forward to you. And then also something else that we can be doing is to have more intensive research and evaluation on the state of food insecurity in Tennessee. Our survey of institutions, we asked administrators about food insecurity. We didn't ask students where they are. We can have a deeper level of analysis and research on figuring out food insecurity to the student with more time and dedicated resources. Mr. Chairman, thank you again for your time, members of the committee. Thank you.
Thank you also very, very much. Appreciate that. We've got a couple people want to ask questions, but one thing I just want to mention, I'm very big on the credentialing, the stackable credentialing, just like food insecurity. A lot of students, if they're having food insecurity issues, a lot of times they drop out or they're not able to finish. Give them early success by giving them a credential that they can stack up on, get a better job, and continue to move forward. I just think that's an important thing that would address several things.
Yes,
Representative Love.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations on your appointment to the position. One of the slides shows that 2017, the Focus Act, I think by that time was fully implemented. We started working on 2016 timeframe. So now we are in year 6 to a degree of boards being at our local institutions. We just appointed a few more members earlier today. And I know that it's new for a lot of the institutions to have their own governing boards and to be charged with the full responsibility of the institution that maybe TBR used to be engaged in doing. In your conversations with them, in your time at THEC, at this moment, what are, if you can briefly talk about some of the challenges that they're having or success stories they may be having, but just as a board existing and again, directing the work of their institutions?
Thank you, Representative Love. It's an excellent question. And, as we are 6 years, almost 7 years removed from it, to think through what are those challenges. And I would be remiss if I don't say there are others in this room, including President Noland. I believe he's still here. Is he gone? If President Noland, who has a better upfront look at the board and can speak to the challenges that he's experiencing, and take it a step back, I'd say a challenge that we have experienced, and I am intent on spending this year thinking through better. So we used to be a coordinating board for 2 systems, UT and TBR, and now we are a coordinating body for 8 different institutions, 6 LGIs, UT, and TBR. How best can we ensure that we are working to unify the higher education system to accomplish state goals? I think that's been the challenge that comes with any time there's a governance change and there's not substantial change at the coordinating body. I'm open and eager to learn what we could be doing better and different, and also to ensure that you guys aren't being, I'd say, bombarded by 8 different bodies and on the same topics of higher education, that we can have a unified voice. 2, earlier on in this process, we had some substantial trainings. We still train all new board members to the governing boards. Back at the last time we had an all convening of training all of the board members was back in 2019. The pandemic kind of threw a wrench in that for a while. We are intent on bringing that back together so that we can survey our board members at all of our institutions and the presidents to have them identify for us, these are the challenges we have, and how can THEC then, using external resources, external services, help them get trained up in that. I'd say those for me are the biggest impacts. To the institution themselves, I'd have to defer to the presidents to address them one by one. Thank you, sir.
Representative Love.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one more. Let me thank you for your continued work. I know that a few years back we did pass the HBCU initiative,
Yes, sir.
which allows us to focus on those as they contribute to things like Drive to 55 and making sure that we have certificates and degrees for college students. And I don't want to speak for my colleague, but I know that one of our HBCUs, Knoxville College, surely is going to be able to benefit greatly from that interaction with THEC. I think they had their first graduation in many years because of the HBCU Success Program, which is the first and only in the country right now. And so behind North Carolina and Alabama, we have some of the highest number of HBCUs in the country. So let me thank you for your commitment to that. I know that a lot of the work that you all do helps those college and universities be successful, and then by virtue of that, help those in the community be successful. So thank you for your work along that line.
Well, thank you, sir. If I may, real quick, when I'm not here in session over the next 2 months, I'm traveling the state with Dr. Brittany Mosby, our Director of HBCU Success. We're meeting with every single HBCU president to identify what more we could be doing, especially with me fresh and new to this position. I'm excited for that.
Thank you. Representative Fritz, you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and so much information. Thank you all today. So much information. I'd love to get into that first slide and do a data analysis, but I don't think we have time for that. But my questions are based on what appears to be a correlation or a patterning between the yellow line and the blue line. And it speaks to me when I look at that of our non-traditional and sometimes those that had not planned college going into Roane State to increase their opportunities to provide for their families and be fully productive. And I would just offer this, that back to a comment I made earlier, we're probably the envy of the entire country on some of the things that we're doing. Our providing mentors for our high school students so that they have a face-to-face connection, the mentorship involved in that, and just knowing they've got somebody to turn to. I think we're leading the country in that. And if it would not be out of turn or out of order, Mr. Chairman, I would issue a challenge to all my peer group here that consider being a mentor. It's a needed thing, and it is a helpful thing. And it's a way that each one of us can make a difference in the lives of a young person by helping push them onto a higher goal. And then food insecurity. I'm trying to get this in quickly. Our community colleges and TCATs have lots of what we would probably years ago have considered non-traditional students, sometimes even military students that have come back in. And that is a real problem. Roane State Community College and the Roane State Foundation has done a tremendous job in trying to help with that. I'm sure Pellissippi and the other community colleges do the same kinds of things. But I would also offer that's a great way for us to get involved and help those students be successful because they're taking on a great challenge. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for those comments. I'm sure that Mr. Graham Thomas sitting back over here with Tennessee Achieves would totally agree with you on this mentoring process, which is what they do. So as well as the Ayers Foundation. Anyone else would like to ask a question? If not, members, I appreciate so much your attention today. Thank you all so much, Tennessee Higher Education, for agreeing to come and be with us today.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so very much. Today's bill filing deadline, so the bills are going to start hitting us fast and furious. So be ready as you come to committee, and we will deal with them. Thank y'all. Without objection, we are adjourned.